Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second of two webinars for this year's edition of the Memphis Grizzlies Career in Sports webinar. I am Meghan Triplett. I am the Memphis Grizzlies and Grind City Media digital content reporter, and I'm super excited about today's webinar. We had this event last year, and we are bringing it back virtually, but still even bigger and having so much fun. I have a lot of people on the panel, and my colleagues are some amazing people that I'm excited about introducing. There they are. We got all of our boxes. First up, we have Devin Walker. He is the coordinator of social media and digital content with Grind City Media. He handles all of our social media accounts. He's the guy in the gray with the cap on, looking like Devin Walker always does.
Thank you, Meghan. How are you?
No problem. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
We also have Nick Perreault. He is the coordinator, activation of partnership and marketing. Thank you for joining the panel this morning, Nick.
Yeah, it's great to be here. This is a really cool setup.
It is. Like, this is 2022 a T. Really, really. All right, we also have Travis Brady. He's our account executive of Premium Sales. Travis, thank you for joining us. He is live via Skype.
I'm glad to be here. Appreciate it, Meghan.
And also, last but not least, we have Lindsay Jones. She is the manager of ticket sales.
Hey guys, how's it going? Happy to be here.
All right, we got to get pumped and get excited. I know it's morning, it's early, but I need a little bit more energy, people, because we have a full hour of some heavy-hitting, hard-hitting questions to get to know all of our panelists. And so now that we've gotten a chance to introduce everyone, let's get just straight to it. Devin, I want to start with you and just tell us how you got to the Memphis Grizzlies and Grind City Media.
I was born.
That's a great start.
I know. I was born March 2nd, 1993. I'm born and raised here in Memphis, Tennessee. I went to elementary, middle, and high school here in Memphis. I went to college at the University of Memphis. I studied sports and leisure management my first couple of years of college because as anyone that played basketball or any sports in high school, they feel like they can be a coach. So my early years of college, I spent those early years focusing on being a basketball coach. And I quickly realized this is not for me. So 2 years in, I switched to journalism. And I started to pursue journalism, started to do digital stuff. And everybody in my classes, I started to take journalism class, writing classes, digital classes. I got an internship with one of our guys behind the glass, John Roser, at 92.9 ESPN, Chris Vernon and those guys. And I did everything there as far as like board stuff, going to get Subway, all that good stuff. And then the internship was over, and they hired me part-time to just be on, just doing things around the office. 2 years later, opening comes here, the Grizzlies, and my niche was social media and digital and journalism-ish, and here I am.
I know a lot of people have to be interested because we all know social media very well. We all have it on our phones, whether you're working or just personally. So what does your job really, really entail? I know that's a really hard question.
Very hard question. What the best way I try to explain it, because at Thanksgiving, when you're with your older kind of family members, they ask you, what do you do? And you can't just say, I run social media, because they're like, oh, what does that mean? You just press buttons all day. So the best way I try to explain it is, do you have Facebook? Do you have Twitter? Do you have Instagram? If you go on those apps and you go look up the Memphis Grizzlies and the Grind City Media accounts, that is what I do all day. As far as like managing those accounts, getting content out, managing personalities like you, Rose, or everybody else, getting everybody's content all in one place to make sure it's presented in the best way possible. So that's kind of the easiest way to put it. So if you see any memes come up, anything that makes you laugh or smile or cry or educate you from any of our social media channels, from Facebook to Twitter to Instagram to TikTok to Snapchat to LinkedIn to anywhere, that's sort of what I do all day, every day.
And the great thing about it, I know Devin personally, he gets to be himself. You
Yeah,
get
I do.
paid to
I
really
do.
be yourself. There's other parts of your job, but you also get paid to be yourself, and that's really cool. Nick, what about you? I know you're in partnership and marketing. How did you get to the Memphis Grizzlies, and just talk about where you went to school and what you majored in?
Sure. So I have a little bit of a unique career path. So I really started out, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. That's my home city, my home state. And then from there, really just gained a lot of experience in internships and whatnot. Really, my plan for coming out of college was I knew I wanted to be in sports, but really in what capacity. So I did as many internships as I could to really just figure out what I was good at, what I wanted to do, or at least have an idea of where I wanted to go. So then coming out of college with those internships, my first gig was a ticket sales job, which Lindsay will probably talk to a little bit more. in a bit. But really in that job, I think I learned a lot about myself and what I was really good at and where I needed to improve. And in that ticket sales job, I really learned that my passion went back to my internships and partnerships. I figured out that I was more creative, that I was more interested in brands and working with a lot of team members. So in doing so, I ended up going to the Golden State Warriors in their championship run in 2018, which was an incredible process to be a part of, but really made some connections there, especially with someone in this, a lot of people in the room may know, is Abushri Awufasa, who led the community team over there. She ended up coming to Memphis in my last couple days in my seasonal gig with the Warriors. We stayed in touch, and then sure enough, I kind of found myself interviewing in Memphis and then moving out here. So I think that's one of the unique parts of the sports world is that a lot of people move around. And it's really brought me to a lot of new cities and states that I could have never even seen myself living in. But here I am, 2+ seasons with the Grizzlies, going into my 3rd this year.
Oh, wow. And so I think like that's the beauty of sports is getting the chance to get to travel and cover a whole bunch of other sports and a lot of other teams. Lindsay, let's start with you and just tell us about yourselves and how you originally, where you went to college and how you got to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, so I am originally from Council Bluffs, Iowa, right next to Omaha, Nebraska. It's about 5 minutes away, kind of a small town. I actually started out wanting to play sports in college, thinking not really much about my career path. So I went on, played basketball and golf at Morningside College. It's a small NAIA school, and quickly realized that I needed to kind of shift gears. Loved it and loved my teammates, but was ready to really focus on a career. So I transferred to the University of Iowa. That's actually where I got my undergrad degree in recreation and sport business. And then from there, after earning that degree and getting a lot of experience, just kind of putting my hand in different things, figuring out where I wanted to go next, I actually went on to get my master's degree at Lindenwood University. I was a graduate assistant with their athletic department. Primarily thought that marketing was where I wanted to be. I wasn't 100% sure, but that was kind of what I did as a graduate assistant. And then that led to a lot of different opportunities interning, getting experience with a minor league baseball team. I worked for the Kansas City Chiefs for a summer with their marketing team. I worked with the St. Louis Blues for a little bit as well. And then ultimately that led to my first position, kind of like Nick, in inside sales with the St. Louis Cardinals. So that was my first real full-time job after getting both of my degrees. And then from there, kind of worked my way to a management role here with the Grizzlies.
Really, really cool, Lindsay. And Travis, tell us just about yourself and where you went to college and how you got to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off my younger self in California and moved into Memphis when I was about 15 years old. From there, went to high school in Collierville and then went to college at the University of Memphis. And the Grizzlies was my first career in sports. And from there, I started off as an intern. At the time, it was just 3 days a week working for the Grizzlies, just basically making calls to the people that were coming to, 1 game a season, 2 games a season, and trying to sell them a ticket package to come out to some more games. And from there, worked into a 1-year contract with the Grizzlies in our ticket sales position, which is the team that Lindsay now manages. And from there, went into a client services role, so managing a lot more of our season ticket base. And then as of about 2 years ago, moved into our premium sales department. So we handle all of our suites and our floor seats. So myself and one other gentleman are representatives there. And then our manager, David, we basically try to sell to a lot of the companies here in Memphis. And that's really what we focus on and trying to sell what I call the wow seats, the floor seats, and then the suites. So it's a lot of fun.
And Travis, I have to give a shout out to your gallery wall behind you. I think he has the best setup going on right there, back there. You got Martin Luther King. You got the eye of a tiger behind your shoulder.
I appreciate it.
I like it.
I love art. I'll have to give you guys a tour of the entire place one day. I've got a ton.
Oh, really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely appreciate it. Thank you.
And for myself, I went to Tennessee State University. I am from Memphis. I'm a graduate of Germantown High School. I saw Travis shout out Collierville, and we got Devin, who's from Houston. I know we have some people around the area as well. And I majored in communications. I had more of a direct tie to public relations. I thought PR, sports information, was going to be the role that I was going to take, but I did that for a few years. I interned here with the Memphis Grizzlies about 7 years ago, and when I left, I was in the PR department. Then I left and I went to ESPN and started out as a production assistant. Went to Charlotte, was with ESPNU and the SEC Network. Was a content associate, did a lot of production stuff, and then I kind of transitioned over into our digital social media side and started hosting a lot of gigs. And then I left and went to be with an anchor in Boston for lacrosse, and now I'm back here at the Memphis Grizzlies. So everything is really, really full circle, and I think everyone touched base on this about how every job you got and everything you got, was a lot of it was networking and keeping in touch with people. And in sports, it's super, super important to really stay in touch with a lot of people, because a lot of places that you get and the jobs that you get are from knowing a lot of people. And so, Nick, let's start with you. Just how important was networking in your career path?
It's incredibly important, and one of the things I kind of want to emphasize just a little bit is with networking, it's not just about who you know, but I think a big part of it is who knows you. So that anywhere where I would go, I really tried to make myself present and make myself the best representation of myself and kind of where I wanted to go. And in partnerships, it's more, I would say, natural in our department to work with a lot of different departments. The success of our department is really reliant upon, people like Devin, people like you, Meghan, and especially our tickets team with what our partners are looking for. So naturally, I got to know a lot of people in that way. But really, like I mentioned before as well, the sports world, so many people move around. So many people find themselves at other teams. And it's really important to make a lasting impression, and a good one, on those connections, because it is very, very likely that you will come across paths again in the future.
And Lindsay, you're from Iowa, and so you told your story of how you thought you're gonna play college sports, but from Iowa to Memphis, and how important was networking for you in your career path?
Yeah, networking has been everything for me. I started out at the University of Iowa, like I said. When I was there, I can still remember one of my professors giving all of us this lecture about making sure that we get to know people in the industry and doing informational interviews just to get to know people. What that means is literally you're calling people, shooting them an email, asking for their time, and interviewing them on what they do and learning about them. So that was a major part of how I got to where I am. And in fact, my first internship with a pro team with the Kansas City Chiefs, I got it because I reached out to their marketing director, set up a time to talk to him, and he remembered me whenever I applied for the internship that came available a couple of months later. So, networking for me has been really key, and I've learned that it can go a long way, even now that I'm a manager who hires individuals and young kids. For me, it's even more important than it was back then, because now I'm building relationships, trying to build our sales staff with the best, brightest young reps. So it's even become more crucial along the way.
I know people who are listening, their eyes probably got a lot bigger when you said, oh, you hire a lot of young people. We will get back to that, Lindsay. Devin, from a social media side, obviously communication, that is social media and how you network. Now you have Twitter, LinkedIn, you have direct messages. And how has that kind of just, paved the way in your career, and how have you used that?
I mean, it started for me when I was younger, because one of my mentors coming up was Elliot Perry, and I met him as like a young 12-year-old. And he was the reason why I got my first internship, is knowing, like you said, Nick, it's not about who you know, it's about when they know you. And he connected me with the people I need to be connected to, and it kind of got the ball rolling. And I mean, 3 years later, we Roser, Vernon, and look where I am. So networking has been, like, for me, like you said, in the social sphere, it's the biggest thing. It's probably the biggest thing, because you don't know who you're talking to, who you're tweeting at, because they could be someone you need down the line. And even at the University of Memphis, when you work in the journalism sphere, everybody is kind of a small little circle of people. So where you're doing things, when you're working at the school radio station, where you're doing little small things, everybody knows everybody. Everybody's connected to each other. So like you said, you talk about making an impression. I mean, I like to kind of pride myself on making an impression on people. I have a very like kind of outgoing personality where I'll let people know like I'm there. So like when in those situations when I need to kind of make an impression on people, it's okay. Let you know I'm here. You remember my name. My name's this. Get an email. Blah blah blah. So down the line, when it comes up, my name comes up. It's like okay, yeah, that kid knows what he's talking about. That kid, he has a good personality. We can vouch for him. So for me, it's been the biggest part of my kind of ascension is just networking and making an impact on people every time I'm around them.
And Travis, I think a big thing about choosing a career, sometimes you just don't know where you're going to end up. And we've all talked about working in different departments. And Travis, you've gone from ticket sales to premium sales. What's your advice to those who are listening right now, who are students who are saying, like, I really don't know where I fit in or what I want to do, but I know I definitely want to be in sports?
I would honestly say take the first opportunity that might pique your interest, because you never know. I mean, like Nick came from partnership, our ticket sales and partnership, and then back into partnership. And I have always had a passion for sales. I love meeting people and just creating genuine relationships with people. So I've kind of always knew that I'd be in sales and follow down that route. But at the same time, just being in the sports world, you're so connected with people. Like last year, I went and saw the Grizzlies play at multiple arenas and multiple different cities, and just made connections by sending people in my position on LinkedIn a message saying like, hey, I'd love to collab and talk about what your premium sales department's doing and kind of show you what we're doing. I'll be coming into town, never even asked for a ticket in any way, and they're like, well, hey, why don't you come to the game and I'll get you a ticket and we'll get you taken care of. And then we just immediately connected from there, and I've created genuine relationships within within just sports in general, which is good. And then so I guess that's just kind of had my foot in the door and ran with that. But you can really do anything. I mean, a lot of people come in through Lindsay's program, as she does hire a lot of young people. And, she can help people move into different departments. Like I had one young lady that was in ticket sales, moved right into partnerships. And we've had other people go into different departments, marketing, HR, stuff like that. You just kind of have to, find out what you're looking for. I'd definitely say that sales isn't for everybody. It's you have to deal with rejection every day, constantly. So it can be very hard at times. So it's a fun way though to get your foot in the door with a company.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, go ahead.
I know. I was going to say I totally agree with you. When you come out of college, it's really, really hard to like circle one job field that you definitely want to be in. Like I said, I thought I was going to be in sports information and PR, and an opportunity presented itself where it was to go to Duke and do a post-grad program where it was unpaid, and you worked in the SID department for hours upon hours. And for those who don't know, sports information is a hard job that you're constantly working and just looking for those opportunities. And when you see social media became really popular, I can shoot, I can film, I can edit, learning how important that is to kind of really just be a chameleon and just kind of just like adapt to whatever you want to do. Because the best thing is you might not know what you want to do, but the great thing is you also know what you don't want to do. As you realize that, Nick, you talked about that from the sense of you've gone from Golden State and from different departments. What did you learn about the jobs that you did not want to have?
I think, Travis kind of touched about it. He said sales isn't for everybody. And I think in taking a ticket sales job, I learned just a lot about what I'm good at and where I need to improve upon. And honestly, like during that time, it was rough for me because I kind of started to figure that out. But in doing so, those skills don't get lost, especially as I jumped back into partnerships. I now have a full understanding of the sales cycle, right? I know what it's like to be a seller and to try to close a deal and how important that those meetings are. So now as my role on more of the activation side, when I'm working with our partnership sales team, I understand their importance for, wanting to put a deck together or gather my thoughts on how certain things go because I now understand that. So, just as you kind of learn and take jobs that, you're unsure of if they're going to be for you or not, nothing ever is lost. And everything that you gain in experience will most certainly be applied to in your future career.
Lindsay, how have you dealt with rejection especially when it comes to your career path, especially not just in sales, because as you know, Nick and Travis mentioned, in sales you deal with rejection a lot, but also in the sense of jobs, and also learning that this is not where I thought, and this is not what I want to do.
Yeah, I think for me, rejection was not like an end all be all. It was more of, hey, now you have an opportunity to figure out what you do want. So along those lines, figuring out that I didn't love marketing, that I didn't love, chasing radio ads and doing some of those tedious tasks, I realized that, okay, this is good. I'm in the right direction. It's kind of like in sales, we talk about overcoming objections and smoking out the objections, figuring out what the client doesn't want sometimes is a good thing. So for yourself as a professional and growing, figuring out what you don't want is a good thing. Rejection is a good thing because it's only going to help you get to that yes and get to that idea of where you want to be. So for me, rejection has helped me figure out exactly what path I wanted, and it's ultimately led me to sales and leadership and, growing as a professional, as a leader. Managing people is what I aspire to do, and that's what I plan on doing with my own team. So
really, really cool. Lindsay and Devin, for you talked about going from different radio stations and a part-time gig, and really honestly coming here and saying, what do you need me to do? And it's formed into this full-time job with social media. And we call you the social media guru. You got your phone right next to you at all times. How have those like various job roles and then just kind of moving around helped you pave the way to figure out what you really truly want to do?
I think it's like you said, being a chameleon, and literally from the bottom floor saying I'll do anything. It's whether it's we talk about my internship. It was unpaid. Mm-hmm. It was, like I said, going to get Subway, going to random concerts in the middle of nowhere, just country concerts, rock concerts. They say, Devin, do you want to go here? Sure. I'm going to Millington to go to drag races. Literally doing anything it takes because you know what your end goal. You know what you want your end goal to be. You know you want to be kind of comfortable and be in a place where you want to be. So my thing was, anything you want me to do, yeah. There's no I'm too good for this. Oh, I'm too good for that. It's not my. Say yes, no matter what it is. Swallow your pride. If you want to have something in this industry, I realize that you have to say yes to things maybe you don't like that much. Maybe, like I said, I know you worked in lacrosse. Not the biggest lacrosse fan, but sometimes you have to do that to get to where you want to go. So I think just saying yes to things I didn't want to do and kind of like shaping myself, my not my image, but just what I do. Because I do social, and most of my time spent on this thing. Mm-hmm. And I shaped what I want to do on this phone, and it ballooned into something else. And like you said, eventually people get eyes on it and say, okay, that guy knows what he's doing. And it turned into a full-time gig here, and I'm just thankful, man, because like I said, you never say no to anything. Just do what you have to do to get to where you are.
And I think a lot of us can agree that we're still saying yes. We're still saying yes to gigs. Lacrosse was just a year ago, and so being from Memphis, I did not grow up around lacrosse, and I had to go buy the book, Dummies about lacrosse. Like that, there's actually a book about that. And one of the things that I know shaped me, and I think a lot of people struggle with this, is when you get a new gig or you get a new role that you don't know much about, is like asking for help. That is something that I think a lot of people sometimes struggle with because they think that it might show themselves as being less than or not being qualified. Travis, how have you dealt with that struggle and how has that helped you, just saying, reaching out and asking for help for those who are knowledgeable?
Yeah, reaching out and asking for help might be one of the most important things. I mean, my manager, David Harmon, I can come to him with anything and he will have great answers. And outside of the industry, I have a lot of mentors as well, for just a sales process in a whole, maybe not so much, with the Grizzlies directly, but asking for help is something that I definitely struggled with when I was younger and didn't realize how much I needed it, to continue my growth personally. And once I did start reaching out for a lot of help for the people that much older than me have been in the industry for a lot longer, I realized how fast I could grow, and the knowledge that I could have almost immediately just by learning from, mentors and asking for that help. So that's a huge piece in, early stages and middle stages and even late stages. I mean, even some of most influential people in the world today still have people they ask for help with. So I think that's a good thing, and I'm very blessed for my management team with the Grizzlies and the help that they've given me. Obviously, they've helped me push through multiple different positions with the Grizzlies, from intern to where I'm at now. So I'm very thankful for the help that I've asked for along the way.
Yeah, it's always really, really hard to find that job in an organization who is always so welcoming, open door policy, responds to emails. That's something that I still struggle with to this day, is when you need someone, whether it's a guest on our show, sending an email, you're thinking, oh, they won't respond, and then you're surprised that, oh, they did. They actually have the time. They actually did respond to a DM, an email. Nick, has that been something that you've had to deal with, especially when it comes to job openings, LinkedIn, linking in someone or sending a message and saying like, oh, but they might not get it, and even when they don't respond, sending a follow-up just to make sure?
Yeah, I mean, to dive a little bit deeper into my career path, we had a job shadow project that we had to do in high school, my senior year of high school, and my hospitality teacher, Claire McWilliams, she taught us in high school, like, hey, if you want to reach out, to somebody, learn about the industry that you want to go into. And a lot of people from the small town that I kind of grew up in outside of Phoenix, a lot of people interviewed the local baker or the local martial arts teacher or something. I went to the senior manager of marketing at the Arizona Diamondbacks and just said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. Reach out, found them online, and just sent them a note saying, hey, we have a job shadow project that we're having to do in our hospitality class. This is a career field that interests me, and I would love to spend some time just to learn what this is about. And in doing so, I didn't get an answer back for probably about 6 to 8 weeks. But sure enough, after I did my job shadow project with her, when I was coming into college midway through my freshman year, she actually reached back out to me and let me know that they had an opening on the street team, which is basically like the claw crew for anybody over here at the Grizzlies. And that's where I ended up getting my start. So it really just takes that initial step of just reaching out and being like, what if? What if I did reach out to this person and they did respond? Because you never know, again, like where things come from. Sure enough, after the pandemic, I'm sure there's going to be some more opportunities coming along. And it's about the people that do the work now, that reach out and show that interest. Then when things start picking up, you're already going to be top of mind, and you're going to be the person that they're reaching back out to.
Yeah, I've dealt with that several times, and I still kind of talk myself out of things all of the time. But then that one time that I do, it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen, they don't respond. I don't know them. The best thing can happen, they do respond, and now I do know them. And then it could be a job, it could be a mentor, or I like to say sponsor. The word mentor is sometimes overused, but someone who definitely can see something in you and kind of just feed some knowledge into you. Whether it's a conversation or just one email, you will definitely get something out of that tremendously. And Devin, obviously, Nick, you talked about the pandemic, and things are so different in 2020, especially from us coming up and starting our career. We didn't have to deal with some of these people, what they're dealing with right now, especially for those who are just graduating, getting ready to graduate, who are in college trying to figure out internships. What advice do you give those, especially because you're the social media person, and now a lot of things are happening via the phone. A lot of conversations are happening, and also people are making their own content.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Some people are shaping their own content, so they really don't need us. But the people that do need the advice is don't be afraid to reach out. Like y'all kind of hit it on the head. When you reach out, whether it's via DM, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's an email, whether it's a pigeon, no matter what it is, like however you reach out, don't be afraid to do it. Because like you said, those 1,000 emails you send, all it takes is one. Mm-hmm. All it takes is one response. And so when I tell people, what would you tell people in the pandemic time? Just said, don't be afraid. Because a lot of people, like you said, they're reluctant to do it because they don't want to be told no. They don't want to be told no, not now, or if we're dealing with a pandemic. So I just say, man, like, reach out, do what you have to do. Is when you get that response, when you get that one response, do whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes. If they say, I need you to fly here tomorrow, do whatever it takes to get there. Because like I said, there could be that one shot that you've been kind of clawing for and you push through. So I think, like I said, my biggest advice is just email whoever you need to email. Email everybody. Email me. I respond to everybody. Email me on LinkedIn, no matter what you have to do, and try to push through to get to where you want to go.
And Lindsay, I know you touched base on it. You are a manager. I know your job has been affected a lot by the pandemic. What's your advice to those? Because you mentioned that hopefully that you'll have some jobs that could be opening up, early next year. What's your advice to those who are trying to figure out what should I be doing right now, especially a pandemic? I need a job. I might need an internship.
Yeah, great question. And I think they hit it on the head there, but at the same time, it's not just reaching out, it's how you're reaching out. So, reaching out, I can't tell you how many people and students have emailed me and just said, "Hey, do you have any jobs?" Like, no context whatsoever. And I'm just like, what kind of job are you looking for? Like, can you give me some details here? Be strategic in how you're reaching out, what you're saying. I think it's really important, like I said earlier, to show that you care about the other person. One, you should want to know what they do because they're probably professionals that have made it into whatever role they're in. But two, if they are a hiring manager, you need to show that you're being professional, that you're able to type up a professional drafted email and include your resume, even if you're not talking about yourself. If you're emailing them and saying, "Hey, I'm super interested in learning more about your career. Attached is my resume. I'm a student here. Would love to spend 15, 20 minutes just getting to know you. Would you have some time next Tuesday or Thursday?" That is the easiest thing you can do, and it gives them some direction. And whenever I get emails that are professionally drafted with a how to it, not just, "Hey, do you have a job?" I'm a lot more inclined to respond. So I can't tell you how many, especially during pandemic, during this weird time working from home, that I've gotten messages from students or aspiring sales reps, that people that want to get into the sports industry that just kind of blatantly just ask for a job. And, I can't direct them in the right way because it's just so plain. So just try to make sure that you're being diligent in what you're asking for.
Yeah, Lindsay, I actually dealt with that recently with someone who DM'd me, which I was super happy to respond to someone's direct message on IG, but then it was just a very simple of, "Hey, do you have time to talk?" And it was just like, I didn't know if we're talking about shopping or the Costco things that I just bought, or if it was something about work. But she was very open, and me telling her like, "Hey, next time you talk to someone else," because, in my head, I'm just Meghan. But if you reach out to someone else, making sure that I am feeding her information that she can take to the next person, and that's how you kind of like spread the message along, and she can send to her friends, and she won't obviously do it again, hopefully, as well. Travis, for those who obviously there aren't jobs opening up like that, like crazy, and we're telling people how to reach out and how to contact you, and also working on the resume, but not just in the sense of jobs, but if you're in college, there's also organizations and different clubs that you can be a part of. What clubs or organizations helped you along your career path?
I can honestly say that I wasn't a part of a whole lot of clubs growing up. I kind of had a split high schools, and so that was I was kind of alone for the majority of my part, in high school. But college, I did golf a lot, which was a lot of fun, and kind of got integrated that way. And I immediately fell into business at the University of Memphis, and what really helped me strive through was just creating genuine relationships with people. I think interesting people are interested, and that's kind of helped me along the ways in sales now. I mean, majority of my work consists of meeting with people, and either we're getting coffee or getting lunch. And I may say, "Hey, can I spare 30 minutes of your time?" That 30 minutes can be 2 hours sometimes, where I'm genuinely interested in learning about what someone's business might be or what interests them, and seeing if the Grizzlies product might be something that could benefit them personally, or as a business tool for them down the road. So I mean, if there's somewhere that you really want to be, if there's any interest that you do have, if you want to be in a specific club, or be in the presence of somebody else, you really do have to try to date them in a sense, and you have to try to really go after them and show effort. And that's kind of what we do. From the ticket sales perspective, we're in contact with somebody that we hope to be longtime friends and business partners with for a long time. So it's a lot of conversations, learning about them and then learning about myself personally and what the Grizzlies do from a business perspective. So it's, if you want something, it's obtainable. To everyone's kind of point to, should I send this email? I don't know if they'll respond back. You never know. I mean, that's all we do in sales is literally shoot our shot every single day and see if somebody replies. You got to get creative, and you got to, if there's somewhere that you want to be or someone that you want to be with, in a business relationship, then it's obtainable as long as you're showing effort and showing genuine, kindness and eagerness to be present in their life. I think that's and that goes with the club question as well. If there's a specific club that you want to be in, there's probably people with a lot of those common interests that'll tell you the same thing.
Yeah, I like that you said it, that to be interesting, you have to be interested. And so a lot of times that can start in college, especially from the sense of whether you're at a big school or a small school. I went to Tennessee State, which is a smaller HBCU in Nashville, and the athletic department was very, very small. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to be in sports. So first, it started out as volunteering in the athletic department. I did marketing. I was the PA announcer. I handled the music.
Hilarious.
I was a PA announcer for volleyball. I handled music, and then that transitioned into being in the SID department, volunteering to write. And then you never know what can come of that, because after that, I had a full scholarship already for academics. So then I got another scholarship because the athletics said, oh, you're doing so much for us. We want to make sure we give you something else. And so my books were paid for. And so you never know what can come of that. And so that also helped me get into my next job at Duke, was because my boss at TSU knew the guy at Duke. And so when you think about networking and also making sure that you show interest in volunteering, whether that be in college, in high school, there are so many organizations. And one organization that's helped me out tremendously is NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists. Going to that conference every single year, you meet so many great people and people who have been my mentor, hearing about different jobs. Nick, you've touched on this too as well, of how it's kind of shaped and prepared you. What did you do in college, and what classes did you take that helped you?
Yeah, I think I went into school at Arizona State studying business. I knew I wanted to be in business. I knew I wanted to be in sports, and figured it would set me in the right direction generally, right? I think a big club that helped me at least get my start and really try to understand the industry was a club I joined called the Sports Business Association at ASU. Now, Arizona State is, if not, I want to say it's one of the largest undergrad students in the entire country, right? So there was a lot of students that obviously attended, and then there was a very specific demographic of students that wanted to work in sports, which I thought was really interesting. And I really kind of jumped in feet first and immersed myself into that club. And there was a lot of like-minded people who really wanted to work in sports. And in doing that, we went on outreach trips. We networked with a lot of different other teams and executives in the industry to really learn about what their job is like. And that was really my first exposure into learning what the sports industry had. But I didn't really just stop there. I mean, I really wanted to get the experience. I really wanted to not just put a club on my resume and call it a day, and then try to get a job from there. It was really about the doing, and really, going to then a team and being like, look at all the things that I've done. Look at all the experience that I've had, right? So in doing those internships, not only are you just working with a lot of people that eventually go on to other teams and do their own career path in sports as well. But you also develop those relationships with those professionals that continue to also go their own route from there.
The one thing about, all these organizations and all of these different classes, and we know times change. Things are constantly evolving when it comes to sports, and that's why it's so important to be a part of these organizations and clubs, because it helps you keep up to date with things. It helps you, formulate those relationships. And Devin, from someone who is in social media, and you obviously see times are changing and things evolving, how we get content, how we even just look at things, or what we're interested in is constantly changing. How important is it for high school student and college kids to really stay up with the times, especially when it comes to the sports industry?
For us in the social sphere is the most important, because you can't be someone who wants to work in social and you're still using vernacular or apps that were created in 2010 or 2008.
Like
because,
MySpace?
Like
You don't do that?
MySpace,
You don't do that anymore?
You can't say, hey, I want to work in social. Hey, y'all got a MySpace coordinator? No, that's not how it goes, you know, because you have to know what's, for us, our job changes like literally every hour. Every hour in the hour. And people ask me, like, what are your hours like? How do you work at 8 to 5, 9 to 5? No, my job is literally 24 hours because of that reason. Because times change, trends change, memes change, and for if you want to kind of be at the top of the scale on the NBA social, you have to know what's going on. So I think being on top of everything is the most important in my field, social media, because like I said, everything's evolving. Everything, like I said, moment to moment. As I'm sitting here right now, there's something that's happening that I'm probably going to get behind on, that I'm going to have to catch up on by the end of this conference. So it's something you have to sacrifice time for, because there's some people that say, oh, I just want to work when I want to work, like I said, like 8 to 5, 9 to 5, but you have to sacrifice to be on top of those trends, because you have to, people ask me, oh, do you spend a lot of time on your phone? I spend probably 11 to 12 hours on my phone every day, because I want to keep up with the trends, with the Joneses. So I think it's the most important for me. And when you work in the social sphere, not so much on other sides, like I do like digital kind of reporting too, not so much on that side, but on the social side, you have to be on top of everything at all times.
Yeah, you also have to just know what's going on, like at all times. And luckily, Twitter, Instagram, and our phones keeps us up to date, especially in the year 2020.
You go crazy sometimes.
It's been quite a year.
You go crazy sometimes because people say you got to take care of your mental health, because like looking at this screen can make you go crazy. But like I said, sometimes you got to sacrifice some things to be good at what you do. So that's one thing I feel like I sacrifice.
And Lindsay, you also know about this very well, especially when it comes to evolving and everything changing, because you have to literally have several conversations with not just with your team that you're managing, but also in ticket sales. How have you kind of, especially in the year 2020, how have you kind of just redirected and also evolved in making sure that you keep up with what's going on, and how important is that?
Yeah, keeping up with trends and social is so important, and it's becoming more and more relevant. Me being a young leader in this industry, I've realized it more and more that we are relying more and more on LinkedIn and social media to get our reach out there. In addition to that, we have to be innovative, because in these COVID pressing times, like everything is, on edge. Like we don't know what we can or cannot do. So how can we go above and beyond? I don't think sports sales is ever going to go away, but our product might change, right? Like we might have to get creative in what we're selling and how we're selling it. And with my generation and generations to come, technology and social is really at the top of that. So taking advantage of that, but also using it to grow our fan base is becoming even more relevant. So I think talking to other teams across the league, or even talking to teams in other leagues, finding new and creative ways to sell our product and make our product is even more important. I don't think we'll ever get rid of people coming out to games, but how can we enhance their experience? And that's something that we work on all the time with our marketing team on. So I think that's just telling of what's to come.
Yeah, and look at what we're doing right now. Usually this is live in person at FedEx Forum, but we knew how important this webinar was, so we're going to figure out a way to make it virtually where everyone can be safe and social distance. And Lindsay, you talked about saying just being creative and always evolving. Nick, in a time like this, when you have to always be creative, what's your best advice for those to set themselves apart? Especially because, there's so many jobs, there's so many people applying. When your resume comes across your desk, how have you set yourself apart from others?
I think it really comes down to those that take initiative. Like, it is a really tough time, so you gotta ask yourself, how are you gonna set yourself apart? You're not able to go to one of these events and network and meet in person. So get creative, get in front of people. How are you gonna make yourself heard? There's still a lot of teams that are still doing stuff. Just because the NBA season has ended doesn't mean that the NBA now goes away. Devin stops posting, and we come back when the season comes back. But it's really about how do you like I said, just got to get creative and get in front of people. There's a lot of teams that are still doing stuff in the community right now. Maybe it's volunteering, maybe it's reaching out to somebody in that sense and being like, hey, I saw that you guys are doing this event. How can I help volunteer safely? How can I help be a part of that? And then coming out of the pandemic, then people are going to look at that and be like, this person found ways to really take the initiative, even if everything shut down, to still get experience, right? So I think that's just one way to do it, but really get creative, because this is when people are looking for ideas.
Travis, what about you?
I mean, coming out of college, it's definitely going to be hard right now getting into the workforce. And, although I personally wasn't in clubs and such when I was in college, I had a lot of jobs. I had a lot of internships, and I wasn't necessarily afraid to call upon those people that had large companies in Memphis that, may have needed a helping hand. I definitely worked for free a lot and was working 40, 50 hours a week, on top of college. Just trying to learn different, financial sectors. I worked in construction, and just kind of like got an array of all within the sales realm. Just got an array of experience of kind of what I wanted to do, and yeah, it does just mainly take initiative to kind of go out there and figure out what you want to do. Although sports right now, it's a little bit frustrating with everything going on. We might not be doing any hiring, but to what Nick's point a little while ago is, you will be remembered once everything does come back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing that we're doing with ticket sales. Is although people might be saying not now, business isn't doing well, just don't see my family coming to a game at the moment. At some point we will be at the top of mind again, and we will be coming back, which is good. So just, taking initiative to being in front of people and keeping connections and contacts. And that's what people have even done for myself. Like I've contacted Lindsay on a few people that have reached out to me out of college, and said, hey, I would love to work for the Grizzlies, big fan, XYZ. And it's like, well, hey, keep in contact with me, and I'll make sure to continue to forward your resume and such onto Lindsay. Love to grab coffee and hear what you're about, obviously, to kind of screen that person before sending him over to Lindsay as well. But yeah, just keeping your head high and knowing that there's a positive horizon, essentially.
Yeah, and I think to go along with that is just making sure that we said, to always say yes, be the yes person, try something new, but also being very, very versatile. We're someone who has a lot of experiences, because what we've seen are the jobs that are around right now are people who can do a lot of things, not just one thing. So, I started out in PR, so I can write, but I also did production, so I can edit, I can shoot, I can produce. And then I did lacrosse, so I know lacrosse, I know college football, I went to SEC Network. So something where it's like they know that we can always rely on you, no matter what we ask you. She has that experience. And so someone who is very versatile and always, looking for other opportunities, because if it's not there right now in the main job field that you want, if it's not in the NBA right now, maybe it's in Major League Baseball. If you don't know it, it's okay. And I truthfully and honestly, be honest about it. Like, hey, I don't know, but I know for sure that I'm going to work my butt off, and I'm going to make sure that I know everything that I need to know about this sport. I didn't know anything about lacrosse. We said it over and over again, and yet it was a great year of my life where I really, really challenged myself, and now that's been beneficial to making other connections and other relationships with other networks where I've had to cover lacrosse for other people. And so it's really, really cool. And before we wrap everything up, we do have some student questions, and I want to make sure that we open it up to people who've asked some questions in. And I want to start with Brad Moylan. He is from Santa Rosa Junior College. He asks, what specific skills and qualities make a resume stand out when determining who your organization will interview for a position? Lindsay, I want to open this one up to you, because I know you see a lot of resumes.
Oh, yeah. So I would say the biggest thing for me is making sure you don't have any typos. Like, that seems like such an easy thing, but I cannot tell you how many resumes I see that have just a blatant typo right at the top. Being able to make sure that you've got somebody to help you just cross-check and spell check and do those little things, very easy. But make sure that you're doing those things, and get with your advisor. That's why you have them at your college. And I can remember when I was a senior, I finally decided, I'm just going to go ask for help. And guess what? They helped me. And it's probably the best thing I ever did. Like, don't be afraid to ask. If you're coachable and you're willing to do that, it's only going to get you looked at along the way. So make sure that you're paying attention to detail, because that is such a huge piece for me.
Yeah, typos is always really big and really important. And also looking over the resume and making sure that you change out, like looking at the qualifications of the job and the specific what you're going to be doing for that position, and also gauging it back to your resume. And I think some people will have the same resume for every single job and position. You really do have to kind of shape it up a little bit for that specific job, so that way people who are hiring, they know that, oh, this is literally for us. She did not apply for 10 different jobs and have the same different thing. And making sure that if you have a cover letter, make sure you change out the job position and the job title. I've seen that several times where you can tell when someone applied for several jobs and they didn't go over it and look back at it. Devin, it's not just resumes now, because a lot of times it's not just emails and resumes that's coming across people's desks, but now it's people looking at LinkedIn pages, your Twitter page, your social media page. And I know that's a job that you and I both, when we apply for any job, it says, what's your Twitter handle? What's your IG handle? If you don't put it, they will find you.
Yeah, they will find you. We will find you in a heartbeat, because like that's a part of you're hiring somebody. You don't want someone a part of your organization that someone on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere else talking bad, talking hate messages, someone that's not a good person in your organization. So for me, a tip for anyone, before you apply to any job with any organization, check your Facebook to make sure there's not anything in there. Check your Twitter, check your Instagram, check even your Snapchat, because I guarantee you there's organizations out here that can find anything. And this is one, because the Grizzlies, when you apply here, you have to fill out all that stuff, and they can find anything you've ever said ever. So my tip to people is say, watch what you say on the internet. I don't care what you think in the moment. You can be mad, angry. Watch what you say, because if you try to apply for a job, it's going to come back to hurt you.
Yeah, and then also for those who are in the social media or looking for social media jobs or a journalism job, your Twitter and your Instagram, sometimes that is your reel. A lot of times they look at that to see the content that you're making. So making sure that it's up to date also.
Yeah.
Your reels are up to date, and using that, making sure that they want to see that you are using your own platform to truthfully promote yourself.
I can personally say that, because my personal Twitter before I got here was somewhere where I kind of express myself in different ways, whether it's memes, whether it's videos, whether it's old photos, and kind of I use that kind of formula into our team stuff, and it's kind of worked. And that's one of the things that got me to where I am, is kind of shaping my own brand and putting eyes on my own brand to let people know, like you said, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. This guy knows how to connect with people on the internet. He could kind of push up our brand as well. So like I agree with that 100%. When you want to work in the social sphere, whether it's social media or digital reporting or anything else, you got to have your own kind of like little base of people on your own social media accounts before you kind of apply to other places.
Yeah, and in 2020, we've seen it best. We've learned a lot from that, of saying, is it worth tweeting? If it's not worth it, if you think that there can be some questions, if you think that it can be offensive, just don't do it. Like, just reconsider, think about it before you hit that tweet button. I am not good at spelling, and everything that I tweet, it's something I'm like, double check. Don't just automatically just hit that tweet button. Meghan, look over, get Grammarly on your laptop and your phones and making sure that everything is spelled correctly, because all of that is still used against you sometimes. Nick, this next question I want to ask you is from Brandon from Arkansas State. He said, beyond this webinar, what is the best way to get recognized for obtaining a career path with the Memphis Grizzlies?
This might, it's interesting. It's an interesting question, and I kind of want to make sure I emphasize this a little bit. And don't cater your career path to working with a certain team. Make sure that you're in the industry to work that job and not work for a team. There's all teams that we're all fans of, and that we watch outside of the Grizzlies for sure. But I wouldn't have worked for the Grizzlies. I wouldn't have worked for any of the teams that I worked for if it was I'm sold on becoming a member of this team because I am a fan. And kind of just being in this industry a little bit longer too, part of me almost is nervous to take a job with a team I'm a fan of, because I'm worried if my fandom is going to,
Oh, it's not so bad. Devin, you and I both know it's not so bad.
Yeah, it's not so bad. It's not bad at all. If I'm real, as a kid coming up in Memphis, I never was a big fan of the Grizzlies. I've always been like a fan of like people. So like when I started working for the Grizzlies, it was easy to kind of separate this from that. So yeah.
But I would say like it's like I said just about before, like just taking initiative, like get recognized, right? It's more about just how you're interacting with those folks. I know like Travis and Lindsay, their job is specifically around touch points, right? So how are you getting in front of those people right now, other than just like sending in your resume or doing what everybody else does? You know, following your resume, you know, reach out to the hiring manager on LinkedIn. You know, everybody has a team website that shows an organizational hierarchy or who's in that position or whatnot. Reach out to those people. Hey, what's it like working there? I want to learn more about this role. And sure enough, your name ends up getting tossed around a little bit more. And when it comes to making a decision on somebody, they look at the person who made the initiative and really went above and beyond to show I really want to be here, right? And at the end of the day, we all want to work with passionate people who want to be here.
And we also have people who are not just, you know, college kids or graduates or people who are in high school, but we also have people who are just interested in working in sports who do not have the experience. Ravi he works for the Environmental Protection Agency, has a very, very complex question, but his question really is for someone who doesn't have that experience, who doesn't have the experience of, let's say, in the sports industry, but he has experience in the federal government. He's asking, will his chances working in sports hurt him from not having that experience? And Lindsay, I know you see several resumes and people coming across your desk, especially in this entry-level position. How can people use their experience in other industries coming over into the sports industry?
Yeah, that is a great question. It's definitely complex, but at the same time, some of the people I've hired have no sales experience at all. They came from a completely different industry. You know, so I would say that you can't say that that's going to hurt you. It's more of your presentation, how you're reaching out to the hiring manager, and how you're displaying yourself during an interview is really crucial to any job that you're trying to get. But on top of that, what kind of skills did you learn from that role that you can apply to this new role? I think that's something that you have to understand. And if there's something that you can figure out or learn or train on in advance prior to that interview to get better and make yourself a little bit more feasible for the position, then do it. You know, like there's so many different sales webinars out there right now, especially during the pandemic, but there's also a lot of workshops that go on throughout the year. I know I'm part of some of them. Mount Union Sales Workshop is a huge one that I went to last February. I'm sure they'll do something online this year. But I mean, those kind of opportunities to get yourself known and meet the hiring managers are crucial too. But really just making sure whatever you've learned, you can apply it. Some of my best people that I've hired, they came from the restaurant industry. They were literally waitresses and turn that into sales because they're able to communicate and provide awesome customer service. They were able to do that on the phones and turn that into an account executive role in the future.
Yeah, and you also never know what's coming. I think with several departments, like 7 years ago, there really wasn't a huge emphasis on social media. So taking jobs and using it as an advantage, don't think of it as a disadvantage, because you can take certain things and bring it to the industry and say, oh, I know that this could also work within this department. So don't look at it as a disadvantage. Really quickly, we have to wrap things up, but I want to open it up just for everyone to go about 1 minute for everyone just to give your overall, the best college advice that you've ever gotten or career advice that you can also still share and spread to those who are listening. Travis, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'll go out and say just work hard and follow your passion. You know, just to kind of go back on the last question, I had no sports experience, and I did have to start off at the bottom and be that yes guy. Yes, I'll do anything to, for whoever needs it, kind of to what Devin was talking about earlier. And, be that person, be reliable, be that person that's trustworthy and can do the job and is versatile in a lot of different, essentially, opportunities that would come about your way. And that's probably the best thing I can, say is just be a go-getter and wake up every morning and be that person that's there for whoever needs you to be there.
All right, so Travis said yes, be a go-getter and just keep on doing and pushing along. Nick, what about you?
I think my catchphrase is you gotta want it. Like, it just comes back to like before the pandemic and whatnot, working in sports. Our jobs is we're working in the office all week, and then after our normal work week, our jobs are also to entertain people when they're off their jobs, right? So we're working extensive hours. How bad do you want to work those extensive hours, right? You got all these people competing, all the people on the webinar watching, they all want the same spot that you do. So, when you put yourself next to everybody else, how bad do you want it?
How bad do you want it? Devin, what last advice that you want to give those who are listening?
Sacrifice. Be ready to sacrifice. When you work in sports, you have to sacrifice a lot of things, whether it's holidays, whether it's family outings, whether it's birthdays, whether it's going out with their homies, whether it's going out of town with their homies. The biggest thing is when you work in sports is sacrifice. Because a lot of days we work is a lot of long hours. It's a lot of long days. It's a lot of long nights. And you miss out on things. So the biggest thing I'll say is sacrifice. One, be ready for sacrifice. And number two is be yourself. And that's one of the things I kind of pride myself on is always being myself. Don't ever let anyone tell you who you are, because that can shape you, and that can kind of veer you off to where you don't want to be. So, number one, sacrifice. Number two, always be true to yourself and be yourself.
And I would like to add to that, just constantly challenge yourself. Don't get complacent in where you are, the position that you're doing, or whatever you're working. It's helped me. The best jobs I've had and the best jobs I've learned a lot from have been the ones where I challenge myself, and I make sure that I'm constantly learning, constantly evolving, constantly asking for, asking questions and asking people for advice, and making sure you keep those great people, those mentors around you, checking in, whether it's like a monthly or a 6-month thing. I try to do a 6-month thing where I say, hey, just want to check in. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm up to, because you just never know what's out there and what someone's like, oh, I didn't know Meghan was doing this. You know what? I have an opportunity for her.
I have one more. Flexibility is also a big thing. Be flexible. Be as flexible as you can, because you don't want to be a one-trick pony. For me, when I got here 2 years ago, I knew I was good at Twitter. I knew I was good at social media as a whole, but I've evolved into working with the camera. I've evolved into doing more editing stuff. I've evolved into doing more kind of production stuff. So that just be molded, be able to be molded and be able to be flexible. That's my last thing.
And you
I'll take photos. Who knew I could take photos, Meghan? I didn't know I could until this year.
You take great pictures of me. I love it. And also, get ready to move. Get ready to move. It's gonna be hard times. We've all said it. We've all lived in so many different areas and so many different places. Lindsay, I want you to talk last and get your last advice, but also I want to open it back up to anything that you want to tell those who might be interested in getting in contact with you, because as you said, you do manage a lot of people and you might have some positions available come early next year.
Yeah. So first, my piece of advice, I'm a Midwestern girl. So for me, working hard is in my blood. That's something that I live and breathe by. But on top of that, one thing that I learned and I took very seriously with one of my jobs was to make sure that you're staying humble and that you're staying appreciative of those that are helping you do your job. I'm literally talking about the receptionist. I'm talking about the janitor. I'm talking about literally the ushers that direct people to their seats. Like, those people matter. And showing that and giving them appreciation on the daily is equally as important as my job is. The reason for that is everywhere you're going, people are remembering who you are and you're building that professional network. So if you're not, staying humble in that regard and you're not being appreciative of everyone around you and working for it, then you're not going to get to where you want to go next. So make sure you're doing that and be genuine about it. It's not just a show. It's literally caring for others. And I've learned that that's gotten a long way for me, and it's sincere when I do it. It's not like I'm just putting on a show. So be sure to do that. And then on top of that, we are looking to hire probably, I'm hoping, next summer. So what that means, we here with the Grizzlies have an inside sales team. Most sports teams do. I would highly recommend starting to do some research if you've never heard of an inside sales team. But, when I started out, I started with the St. Louis Cardinals and their inside sales team. We've got one here with the Memphis Grizzlies. Almost all NBA teams have one. I've got a league meeting almost once a month to discuss what their plans are for hiring. So, TBD, but that's coming. And along with that, if you have interest, make sure that you're reaching out to me. And I hope that you listened when I gave that advice, but reach out specifically with, hey, let's connect. I want to get to know you and learn more about your position. I know I shared a little bit today, but I'm sure I could share some more that I didn't get to speak on today. So, although I'm not hiring right here at this instance, it is good to build this connection. And if you've got a passion for sales and people, sales might be where you belong, So sports sales is a wonderful spot to really start your career. And if that's something that you have interest in, definitely let me know and reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. We've got a page with the base on LinkedIn as well. Feel free to follow that. We do regular updates just in regards to, what we're doing as a sales team. And, it's great to stay updated so you can learn more about what we do in inside sales.
Yeah, so be passionate, be a go-getter, be genuine, be humble, just be adaptable, constantly be versatile, and enjoy it. I think that's the one thing is like find something that you truly, truly love, and it's okay no matter how old you are, what part of life that you are in, with whether you're in high school, college, you've already graduated, you've been out for years, or changing industries completely. I want to thank our panelists tremendously, because there's going to be one day where the people who are listening right now, they're going to be these top executives. And don't forget to always reach back out, do webinars like this, open up your DMs, respond to people, and you have all of our names. And now it's so much easier to find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I know we've all said it. Reach out to us if you have any other questions. We appreciate you taking the time to listen to the Memphis Grizzlies Career in Sports Young Professionals webinar. We hope you have a great rest of your day.